I mean, you were at the Munich Security Conference recently. Just looking at the conference website commentary, it was saying that European leaders felt that, quote, America is turning its back on Europe. Is that your view?
Europe was shell-shocked by what happened in the days leading up to Munich as well as at Munich. In the days leading up, the new Defence Secretary, Mr. Hegseth, went to Brussels and there pretty much said, don't rely on America for Ukraine or for anything else much, which raises the question of what is the point of NATO if it's not about the US underwriting European security as it has in the past. Europe's historical perspective on this, the Americans were vital on the Allied side coming in late in World War I. They broke a stalemate in that war. They were vital in turning the tide against fascism in Italy and in Germany. So Europe has had the best part of more than a century seeing America coming in as critical to its security, and that security blanket has been withdrawn. Hence the huge concern in Europe about the statements. Then at the Munich conference, people expected a security type speech from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and instead got a lecture about letting the far right be fully included in governments and the rest of it. So very traumatised Europe when I was there.
So when you mesh those two things together that you've touched on, you can see a Donald Trump who sees the EU as an adversary on trade, and actually said this week that the idea of the European Union was set up to screw the United States, in his terminology, and they've done a good job of it, he said. And you mesh that together with what J.D. Vance is saying about his culture war, effectively. Does it look like the Trump administration is trying to destroy the European Union?
Well, some are saying exactly that. And that, of course, also plays to a Russian agenda, which would rather like to see bits of it peeled off. Russia has its friends within the European Union, most notably Hungary and now Slovakia as well. So destabilising Europe is very much their playbook, and it looks like President Trump is playing into that. I think now that he has the tech oligarchs in the States so close to him, the message from them will be that the Europeans are trying to regulate their ability to do whatever they like, however they like, whenever they like. And so he's going into bat for US tech business and having minimal, if any, regulation.
Because the EU has more strident rules on AI and on social media platforms, you mean?
Yes, the EU has upheld the right to privacy. When you're going into a Google search, for example, when you're in Europe, you always have more sort of consents to give. Are you sure you want to, allow this to happen, and so on. So they have tried to give more protection than you would get in the US or indeed here.
You touched on NATO just before, saying, it raises the question of what's the point of NATO. Do you think that NATO is under threat as an alliance?
Yes, I do, because it's no longer clear what the US would do as part of its NATO responsibilities.